Chiefs Kingdom, welcome into the Chiefs Report by Chat Sports. My name is Jackson Durham, and today we are going to be discussing some of the news out of Week 10 and how it affects Kansas City. Not great news for the Chiefs here. I'm going to be straight up with you guys. Our AFC West divisional rivals and the other teams competing for the AFC wildcard spots had pretty good weeks. That just doesn't spell great news for us. So let's go ahead and get into what's coming up on today's show. Starting with, before we get into the bad news, which is going to be number 2, some updates from Andy Reid. First time we've heard from Reid in a little while, a little bit of a break for head coach from the media during the bye week. So he had some updates around some personnel situations that I think are very important. We're going to get into all of that. And then, like I mentioned off the top, we've got the bad news coming out of NFL Week 10. Kind of found a way to lose on our bye week, guys. It's pretty unfortunate. And the NFL news that could affect the Chiefs. Lastly, this is separate NFL news. Major story broke around the league today that I think is definitely worth addressing. But first, let's start with what Andy Reid had to say. This coming our way from Pete Sweeney, Chiefs beat reporter. He says Chiefs personnel updates from Andy Reid. Reid confirmed Josh Simmons is indeed back, something we've already talked about. Huge news. But he followed up with, he said, we'll see in terms of his return to the lineup. Interesting. We'll address that. Reid nudged that running back Isaiah Pacheco's knee may take some more time. Not a huge shock there, MCL situation. And finally, while right tackle Jawan Taylor's ankle felt okay by the time he returned from Buffalo. So 3 major takeaways, obviously, from that. Number 1, Jawan Taylor's going to be fine, guys. Woof. Huge sigh of relief for Kansas City Chiefs fans. Number 2, Isaiah Pacheco is still questionable. 1 step forward, 1 step back. And lastly, another step in the wrong direction, in my opinion. Simmons may not be starting. Let's start with the Jawan Taylor news. This is obviously great news. We're getting our right tackle back. I know Jawan Taylor is somebody that I've given a hard time to, that I have criticized for the penalty issues he's had in his career throughout Kansas City, even this season at times. But I don't think anybody who is a Kansas City Chiefs fan, anybody who's watched Chiefs football this year, is going to say they prefer Wanya Morris to Jawan Taylor. It is absolutely no contest. Jawan Taylor is a starting caliber right tackle in the NFL. Wanya Morris, as much as we love the guy, he's solid depth. He's nowhere close to that. So this is awesome news that we're going to be able to get Jawan back, that it's not an injury that will knock him out for any extended time. But the other part of this that kind of scares me is, why is Josh Simmons not 100% guaranteed to be the starter? What's going on with that? Is he that rusty coming off of a couple weeks of not playing? Because we saw how good this guy was when he was in the lineup. And I think it should be a no-brainer that he 100% should be starting as soon as he is 100% healthy. The only reason he should not be in the depth chart is if he is absolutely so rusty or just isn't 100% healthy. If some sort of injury came up while he was away from the team. Those are the only 2 reasons I think you should start Jalen Moore over him. Because I know we gave a lot of props to Jalen Moore for the way he came in and the way he filled in for Josh Simmons in that first week against the Detroit Lions on Sunday Night Football on short notice. You got to give props to Jalen Moore for that performance. That was step up. That's exactly what you expect from a backup. But it's tapered off since then. And Josh, for a rookie, was fantastic in the games we got to see from him. This is the future. This is our franchise left tackle. There is no reason, in my opinion, that he should sit on the bench and watch Jalen Moore play snaps. I don't think that should be happening. I think it is ridiculous. However, I want to hear from you guys. Who should start at left tackle? And this says Jawan Taylor. It should say Jalen Moore. Totally my bad there, guys. I have no idea what I was thinking. But like the video if you think Josh Simmons should be the starter at left tackle in Week 11. And comment if you think it should be Jalen Moore. Let me know where you reside on this one. I am firmly in the Josh Simmons camp. I think I've made that pretty clear. I'm a huge supporter of Simmons. I've been very excited to get him back. I know he had the personal situation going on. I don't think that needs to be held against him. We're all human beings. We've all got things going on in our lives. But I think he's the best left tackle on this roster, and I know he's the future of our offensive line. I see no reason to keep him out of the game. But let me know in the comments if you think it's going to be Jalen Moore or should be Jalen Moore, and smash that like button if you think it's going to be Josh Simmons or should be Josh Simmons. Let's move on to the Week 10 news. Lot of information coming out of Week 10. Sitting on our bye, sitting around on the couch watching other teams play. And on Thursday night, the hate watches, they just didn't go well for us this week, guys. We were pretty bad on our hate watch record. Broncos, they get their win over the Raiders. We were Raiders fans in that one, as unusual as it is to say. And then Chargers on Sunday Night Football. They got the win over the Steelers. Didn't like rooting for the Steelers either. Didn't go well for me either. Neither of our AFC West divisional rivals that we were hoping to jump in front of this week, or at least close the gap on, lost. They both end up getting wins. So that's bad news. In the good news department, though, Jags fall apart in a late one to the Texans. This was pretty sad for Jacksonville. Big opportunity for them to push the boat out in the AFC South potentially behind Indianapolis and secure that wild card spot in front of the Houston Texans. Unfortunately, they choke big time. Davis Mills comes back and gets that win and keeps them just one game ahead of us in the AFC wild card. So that's enormous. And then the Bills. The Bills lost as well to the Dolphins 30-13, dropping an absolute gimme. And again, big benefit to us in the AFC wildcard race, not letting those two teams get too far out ahead of us. They're both sitting at 6-3. We're just at 5-4, one game behind them. So that's the good news. But the bad news is mostly in the AFC West, gang. It's not looking great right now. We're sitting third, and not only are we sitting third, we're sitting 3 games back of the Denver Broncos and 2 games back of the Los Angeles Chargers, who, remember, also have a head-to-head advantage over us. This is not a great position to be in at all, and it reflects in our odds to win the division. Look at these. It's very, very much leaning towards Denver, guys. Almost a 50% chance for the Broncos to walk away with the division at this point. Chargers sitting at nearly a 30% chance, and we're sitting at just over a 1-4 chance to win the division. But I'm going to tell you guys, even though I know we're not used to, we'll get the AFC playoff picture graphic up here. I know we're not used to being in the hunt scene. I know this is not how we dreamed of it when the season began. But I still have faith. I 100% think that Kansas City can keep this streak alive. And we're going to talk about how and the first steps to getting back on track in the AFC West, to getting back into the postseason in just a minute here. But I want to hear from you guys. If you still believe, if you are still as confident as I am in Kansas City to win the AFC West, to keep the streak alive, to keep our AFC West rivals beneath us where they belong, to show them their place once again as beneath the Kansas City Chiefs, like this frickin' video if you think Kansas City's coming storming back in the back half of this season to win the AFC West once again. But the path is not easy. I'm not going to lie to you guys. As confident as I am, it's a tough road. Week 11 is where it all begins, at Denver. And we're going to talk about this one a lot in a minute here, but that one is enormous. And I'm going to tell you guys, I think it's a must-win game. But Week 12 follows it, and that's against the Indianapolis Colts, who, if you haven't been keeping an eye on them this season, Daniel Jones, Shane Steichen, and Jonathan Taylor are cooking, gang. That team's really good. We're on the road in Dallas the following week, at home against Houston, and then back at home for a very big divisional, our second divisional of this 5-game stretch against the Chargers. There is not a more important stretch of the season for Kansas City than this 5-game stretch right here. You're going to find out a lot about yourself, a lot about who you are as a football team, and ultimately, by the end of this 5-game stretch, we're going to know whether or not Kansas City is going to win the AFC West, and certainly whether or not they're going to the postseason. And it all begins in Week 11. As I've mentioned before, Week 11 is a must-win football game, guys. Absolutely must win, in my opinion. We are running into the Denver Broncos, who lead our division at 8-2. This is the best team in the AFC West by record. By record, important to note that. But the teams we're facing after that are 30-17-1 over their next 5 games. Over our next 5 games, those teams are 30-17-1. Our stretch is incredibly difficult. Our margin for error is incredibly low. And the decisions that we're going to have to make are going to be extremely important. And when you think about decisions, the number one thing that I think about, guys, is PrizePicks. This episode is actually brought to you by PrizePicks, and the hard-hitting football action is even better with PrizePicks. The weather might be changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on PrizePicks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. A new feature I love about PrizePicks is their Feeds tab. Follow other PrizePicks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click. Whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner like producer JOD, or just someone whose picks you like, hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new Feed tab on PrizePicks. And I've got you guys' Feed tab right here for you. Here's my lineup for tonight's Monday Night Football game. And we're going with the Moors. As always, you guys know life's too short to ever take the less. More on the passing touchdowns for Jalen Hurts, more on the passing touchdowns for Jordan Love, and more on the yardage for Love as well. You can tail me on this lineup. You could fade me on this lineup. Whatever you do, just do it at PrizePicks because PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. They offer Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, huge shout out to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's video. We always appreciate them. And if you go check them out, make sure you use code CLNS. Very much supports the channel. But as I said, Week 11 is must win, guys. It absolutely is. You win this game, you are at an 85% chance to make the postseason. Coming up from a just under 70% chance right now. And this is all by the New York Times playoff machine, which is newly out and something you guys are going to get familiar with. We're going to be using it a lot on the show here. So make sure you subscribe, by the way, because this is your number one home for Chiefs news in general, but especially for Chiefs playoff news. I promise you guys, no one's going to be covering it the way we are about the path to the playoffs for the Chiefs, about what the Chiefs need to do to get in. And speaking of which, if you lose this one, 61% chance to make the playoffs. Huge shift, guys. You see right away, this game is enormously important for Kansas City to make the postseason. Obviously, it's not a do or die. You lose this game, you're still 100% alive for the postseason. In fact, you have greater than 50% chance odds to make it, but you're almost locked up if you win it. 85% chance to make the playoffs if you win this game. Huge. But if you want to win the AFC West, you really do have to win this one. 38% chance to win the AFC West if you take this thing home. Sitting on a just 7% chance if you do not. You can basically kiss it goodbye if you lose this week. And that pains me to say. It's not 100% over, but it's about as close to 100% over as it could be if you do not win this week against the Denver Broncos. And this is a good football team. They really are. But they're a football team that I'm also 100% confident that we can beat. I am. I really am, guys. I watched them play the Raiders on Thursday Night Football, a team we blew out of the water, a team that they let hang around far too much. This game is 100% winnable. In fact, I would go as far as to say the Chiefs should win this football game. But we're going to have a lot more on that coming down the line this week. I'm actually going to be linking up with our Broncos breakdown host, Trace Moustakis, Moose around here for a dual preview. So just another reason to hit that subscribe button. We've got a lot more content on Week 11 coming. But let's focus on the major NFL news that broke today. This one took me off guard. Not going to lie, gang. The New York Giants canned Brian Daboll today. And I know on paper it makes kind of sense. I mean, I think he's 21-41-1 in his tenure there. Not very successful. They've made the playoffs once and won one game. But I also thought they kind of had something going with the young guys that they had. I felt like when we played them this year, they showed up well with Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterboom, Malik Neighbors obviously getting injured. But this news, outside of just being impactful on the NFL at large, I think has a unique impact on the Kansas City Chiefs, or at the very least could have a unique impact on the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's zoom out a little bit. Remember a couple weeks ago, Matt Nagy's name circulated after the Titans fired their head coach, Brian Callahan. Obviously, Ian Rappaport came through with the report saying that Nagy was one of the names that they were looking at. Could the Giants do the same? I absolutely think so. I mean, you got a young quarterback at Jackson Dart. You've got young, talented playmakers in Scadaboo and Neighbors. You're going to want to surround this team with an offensive thinker. I know they had that in Brian Daboll, but I think they want a new one in Matt Nagy. I don't think this team is going to go down the defensive pipeline. I don't think they're going to look to a defensive mind. So Nagy absolutely could be a name that comes up for them. And remember, I mean, this is not sourced information. I'm not telling you that sources are telling me Nagy's in the hunt for the Giants job, but I think it's absolutely possible that New York could look him up. I think it's possible to get an interview for sure. And you know who else might get an interview? If Nagy leaves for either New York or Tennessee, Brian Daboll in Kansas City, guys. Brian Daboll actually has some Chiefs ties. You go back to 2012, he was just for 1 year the offensive coordinator under Romeo Crennel. He obviously loses his job when Andy Reid comes in. But that was a very different Brian Daboll, and I know things didn't go well that season, 2-14 record. But very different Brian Daboll. Very different Kansas City Chiefs. We saw this guy have a ton of success in Buffalo with Josh Allen, helping him unlock his potential and go to that next level. I would love to see what he could do in Kansas City. I would not mind Brian Daboll as the Chiefs offensive coordinator at all. Not one bit in my book. I think it would be a great hire. I really do think he was not the problem in New York. I think anyone who, and I hate to use this phrase, knows ball, who watched the New York Giants over the last couple of years could tell you Daboll was underserved in terms of the talent that he was given. He was absolutely hampered by injuries this year. I think his offensive scheme would work in Kansas City. I think he deserves another chance as a head coach. Obviously, I don't want that in Kansas City, but I would be more than fine being his sort of coaching rehab, his path back to a head coaching job. Come spend a year with us in Kansas City, help Mahomes look really, really good, and then go fly off to a new job somewhere else as a head coach once again. All stuff to be interested in. All stuff that we will be covering throughout the year as we get into the offseason, as we go through the rest of the regular season. We are your number one source for Kansas City Chiefs news. Thank you guys for spending time with us once again. This is the Chiefs Report by Chat Sports. I'm Jackson Durham, and we are going to see you guys next time.